In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern. And much like yesterday, we're going to be discussing a major Arctic blast that could be on the way for the eastern half of the nation. And in particular, in today's model runs, we actually saw these models become more aggressive with this cold. It's even more intense, seeing snowfall for quite a few eastern states here in the medium range, which would be absolutely crazy. But the other good part of this is a lot of precipitation is expected for the east now. All of a sudden, it flipped like a switch, and now all of a sudden we're going from this historically dry pattern that we've had for weeks and even months into something that could at least semi-rebound us out of it, maybe even fully for some folks, which is very good news. Out west, lots of snowfall and lots of temperature switches, I would say, is the big theme. We're going to be cold for a lot of it, and then it's going to warm up at a certain point, and that's what's going to bring that cool down to the east. So let's just go ahead and dive into things. And even as we just take a look at this afternoon on Wednesday, November 6th, we see this cold and snowfall happening throughout the southern and central Rockies here, so moderate to heavy snowfall for a lot of these states. We do actually have some west coast warmth here, but that isn't going to last too long. We will see some cooler air kind of move into this area before things get very warm. At this current moment, we do have very mild air. That's the only way I could really put it for the eastern states. It's absolutely beautiful outside here in Virginia, 70s. I can't really complain this time of year when it's kind of warm. It's just nice. It's not really hot, so I'm not like sick of it by any means. I think it's just beautiful weather. It's good to get outside. It's much like the 70s when they first arrive in the early spring, where it's kind of just like, okay, it's nice. Let's go get some stuff done outside. Let's, go to a park, something like that. That's the kind of weather we're dealing with here. So even if you enjoy the cold and snow, try to enjoy it, because there might be some stretches of weeks or even months where that weather is not like that. So you're going to miss it at a certain point. Let's talk about the jet stream. We do again have this massive ridge for the west coast, but a digging trough over the Rockies, and you can see it's a little inverted. And then we have this kind of softly ascending ridge over the east that is centered pretty much over the east coast right now, hence why it's so beautiful. Again, we have showers around, even thunderstorms for the eastern portion of the nation. So we're getting started early with this precipitation that is much needed, which is good news. We do have our hurricane out here now, Hurricane Rafael over western Cuba, even expected to maybe cross into major hurricane status, which is kind of unexpected. The good news is that yesterday we saw a lot of these models indicating that we would see some sort of track in towards the southeast here, although we did expect it to dissipate a lot before striking, which is good news. But we have even better news. It's actually expected to kind of not really impact the coast as of now. We've seen this trend of kind of a curvature back towards the open waters. We're going to see today on this European model that this one is even more aggressive with it, taking us way down into Mexico, basically, as a relatively weak storm. And, it makes sense when the storm moves north and weakens significantly and becomes a very weak low. They tend to be able to hop around and do weird stuff very easily. It's not this massive hurricane that, it takes a lot of steering to move around. This thing can get wonky and move all over the place because it's just a weak low by that point. So I think that has a lot to do with this sudden change in the trajectory. Let's just go ahead and move towards Thursday, tomorrow on November 7th. And what we see here is some snowfall for the Four Corner states, especially Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona here. We do see over the south central states perhaps some showers or thunderstorms here to the east of that snowfall. There's a big difference in the jet stream depending on where you're at. We have kind of a cutoff trough here happening. So we have much warmer temperatures here just to the east of this area than we're having in this pocket here. But it is cut off. We see the overall jet stream is a lot more like this up here. So this will likely actually die out and dissipate over time. Let's see by Friday. And there's still enough cold air to work with to see snow, but again, it is kind of becoming less and less intense as far as that trough there. We do see heavy snowfall still persisting over New Mexico and Colorado. This is why those numbers, by the way, in the total snowfall is so gargantuan. When you see these days and days of heavy snowfall, it just adds up. A lot of us in the east here, I mean, a massive snowstorm would last, 16 hours or, 18 hours, maybe 24. So to see, 1, 2, 3, 4 days of straight moderate to heavy snowfall, you can only imagine what that leads to. Just continuously night and day snowing. We do see this kind of surge of warmth is becoming more intense just to the east of there, and we are seeing some heavier showers, if not more intense thunderstorms here across the plains. So perhaps, unfortunately, more severe weather could be on the horizon. We do see our low again very, very far south, almost taking a direct westerly turn here after it's done with Cuba. And again, that should strike somewhere in Mexico on this particular model run. I don't know if it'll be that far south, but the European model has been a little iffy this hurricane season. I've mentioned that a few times. Our jet stream is now ridging over the west, but we do have a slight descending trough over the east, so expect those 70s to maybe drop down into the 60s. You probably won't be dealing with below normal temperatures, but we should see a 5 to 10 degree drop off by kind of like the later week here and heading towards the weekend than we've had for the last couple of days, so it will slightly cool off, still not below average by any means. As we take a look here at Saturday afternoon, we see things warming up once again, kind of indicated by this this kind of flared out look on this funnel boundary here. We have that precipitation along that, so we're starting to see that warm air push northward here. We look at the jet stream, it's almost like an overall ridge over most of the states, and it's descending a little bit here over the east coast. So again, pleasant still, but a little cooler than things have been. Let's take it towards Sunday on November 10th, and what we see is this low is stronger if it stays further south. The shear is all up here, so if it avoids that, it does stay quite strong. But again, seeing it strike somewhere in Mexico on this model run, although take that with a grain of salt, because again, this model has struggled. Doesn't mean it can't be right, but it's a little less likely than typically with this European model. We have showers throughout the deep south and up into the Ohio Valley and even into the Great Lakes here, so rainfall and maybe even some thunderstorms around. A very slight amount of activity in the northwest as well, but we are a little quieter by this point. Monday on November 11th is a pretty interesting point. We have this weaker low out here in the east. This is bringing some northeast showers, maybe even snow showers. A much stronger low over the Hudson Bay, bringing snowfall to some, rainfall to others. And then we have a very strong storm system over the northwest, bringing sporadic snowfall to some of those mountainous areas, and then rainfall for the more lower regions. I think we're at kind of a crossroads here by this point. This is when we're looking at the potential for a massive cold shift in the east, or it kind of just recycling and continuing as is. But this is a big benchmark in the upcoming pattern around the early next week time frame. Here's Tuesday, and things start to shape up. A little cooler along the east still than things have been, so don't expect it to be like warm or even hot in some areas like it has been. I think it's going to be a little cooler, as I've probably mentioned like 5+ times already. But we do see a stronger low taking place across the northern plains, 995. We do see some thunderstorms and showers kind of flaring up as we get this warm front area right there. So we see this surge of warmth, humidity, and instability, and that's flaring up these thunderstorms for the plains and Midwest there. But we can tell that a lot of cold air is moving in behind this one, so it's going to have a really decent cold front probably. Some colder air is able to move in. This is all going to be moving eastward, by the way, if things go according to this European model. We have snowfall throughout the Cascades and Northern Rockies here, so even more snowfall on the way. Here is by Wednesday afternoon. This is when the intensity gets going and the real change happens. 986 in between northern Minnesota and portions of Canada. A very intense cold front look here to the south. A bit of a warm front, a smaller one there taking place to the north. So we do have this warm air kind of, as you can see, wrapping into this low, coming in on the east side. Very standard. So this could be a warmer day here, Wednesday the 13th along the east. But look at how much storminess is coming with it. The other ingredient here is we see warmth pushing up the west side. So we see this kind of warm bubble developing, and this is causing the cold air to not dive southward into the west, but instead kind of slide over top of that warmth and head eastward. So this is a big factor here, right here along that southwest coast. That is what's aiming the cold air to the east, and this low is helping to pull it through. So a lot happening here, but it's shaping up to a big cool down in the east if we see this all come together this way. And this is the second model run in a row where we've seen this very strong signal, and it's getting stronger. So it is a very good sign for those of you that are hoping for some cold and some snow. Depending on where you're at, of course, it's only November, so you have to be in high elevations for the most part to see snowfall. But we do see this pocket here across the deep south. I am a little bit concerned for some tornadic activity, severe weather, with just the intensity of this whole look, the very strong low to the north, the brutal cold air coming in behind, the warm air surging. This is all kind of ingredients for some major instability here across these areas in the Gulf states and even a little further northward here. Keep in mind, these areas do see these wintertime and even late fall time severe weather outbreaks, so this isn't that far-fetched. You know, we typically look at the springtime and maybe some of the summertime, obviously, for tornadic activity, but it does happen other times of year, especially in this particular area would be the #1 spot for this type of thing to occur. So I'm a little concerned about that. We will keep an eye on it. This looks intense to me. We shall see though. By Thursday, look at this. Everybody that needs precipitation needs to rejoice here. Thursday the 14th, massive rain-making cold front here along the eastern seaboard. This would mean inches of much-needed rainfall for all of these areas if it occurs this way. Very strong low, even stronger now, 982 south of the Hudson Bay. And another ingredient, look at the warmth continuing to push further and further northward here. So we see this positive PNA, I talk about it all the time, taking over out west. High pressure, very high pressure, also located in the vicinity of these areas. This is all aiming at a very intense and sharp cooldown for the east, and that is exactly what we see happen on this model run. Very sharp and intense cold air moving in, even snowfall here across some of the upper Midwest right now. And as we move a step further, look at this. We get some snow showers for Friday around some of the Appalachian Mountain Range, especially Virginia, West Virginia, a bit of Maryland and Pennsylvania here. Not too far-fetched. It does happen for these areas. The Great Lakes may be seeing some lake effect snowfall as well. The warmth is taking over for all of these areas, and we really see a deep, sharp cooldown, like I mentioned, along the eastern seaboard here. This would bring severely below normal temperatures to some of these areas. And then we basically see it stick around with the warm air wanting to stay centered in these areas. So this would allow for this cold to kind of stay in place. Also, if you caught a video I made about a week ago, we talked about the kind of blocking to the east and how necessary that is. I want to see if it looks even more textbook here at any point. No, it looks the best here, actually. Look at all this high pressure up by Greenland here. And also, I mean, look at the warmth. We see the jet stream. The west has a pretty impressive trough, or ridge, better yet. Trough here along the east, but look at this massive ridge over portions of eastern Canada, even into southern Greenland here. We call this a Greenland block. What this is doing is it's basically doing on the east end what a positive PNA does on the west end, and it's basically giving the cold only one place to go, and it's in between. So that's why we see this deep surge of cold air here along the eastern seaboard. This is a textbook massive cooldown for the east if it does, in fact, occur this way. So, with all that being said, let's look at the total precipitation. We still see a lot for the northwest here. We saw multiple storms move through. Of course, the Four Corner States into the southern plains, we see a lot of precipitation here. Most of it's snowfall for Colorado and New Mexico there. And then look at the east. We're talking about above normal precipitation for most of these areas. The yellows is 1 inch to 2 inches, which is much more than we've seen just the next 10 days. 1 to 2 inches. That is more than we've probably seen in over a month. So we're seeing a big comeback there as far as precipitation. The reds 2 to 5 inches, which is probably more than we've seen in 2 months. So absolutely crazy stuff. Here is the anomalies. Again, above normal for the northwest, below normal for the southwest, above normal for a lot of the Four Corner States and plains here, but even a little bit expanding into the upper Midwest and portions of the Great Lakes. Then we see the deeper southeast up the east coast here, all of these areas, the majority seeing above normal precipitation. If not, like these areas here, you're very, very close to normal. So this is all good news for everybody along the eastern seaboard. Total snowfall, again, we get a little bit here for the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Appalachian Mountain Range here, even up in New England. So some more signs of snow in the east. The Cascades, we're seeing a few feet of snowfall perhaps in these higher elevations, 2, 3, 4. The Northern Rockies, we're looking at maybe a foot to 2 feet. Your Sierra Nevada mountains, we're looking at inches up to a foot. And then for your Colorado and New Mexico areas, again, where we see massive amounts of snowfall for days on end, we're talking 2, 3, 4, maybe even more feet of snowfall there for some of these areas, especially right in between Colorado and New Mexico. That is absolutely staggering numbers that we're seeing come out of there on this model projection. It is going to be a hot start to the skiing season down there. Let's take a look at the temperature pattern, which has been the focal point here, I would say, of this video. And we see cold air in the west, warm air in the east. We see that kind of continue for a while. Here's when things get a little cooler in the east. Here by, the Saturday, Sunday timeframe, we see that take place. It warms back up. But here comes that massive cool down. Here is Thursday and then Friday. Look at that intensity by Friday afternoon. The blues are 1 to 10 degrees below normal. These greens in here, mostly centered over these southeast areas, is 10 to 15 degrees below normal. And we even see for some of the Appalachian Mountain Range, 15 to 25 degrees below normal. This is already insane numbers, but you have to consider that we've been 10 to 15 degrees, maybe even 20 degrees above normal. So we're looking at like a 30, 40, 50 degree temperature swings for some of these areas. So it's going to be very intense, and equally so in the west, where we see these 10, 15, 20 degrees above normal. You're going from 10, 15, 20 degrees below normal to this. So again, big 20, 30, 40 temperature degree swings overall. Crazy, crazy stuff there. Let's take a look at the tropics real quickly. Again, we have Hurricane Rafael. We also have this area here, 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 30% chance over the next 7 days. We will be watching this closely, although this is still a relatively low chance of development, but we will keep our eyes peeled. Here's the cone forecast for Rafael. Again, major hurricane there over Cuba before we're kind of just going back down to a category 2 or 1 here until all the way on Saturday morning. And then again, tropical storm over the east or the western Gulf of Mexico Sunday, Monday time frame. So again, yesterday we saw this cone forecast hitting into this kind of central or maybe a little bit of even the eastern Gulf of Mexico coast, and now we're seeing it not really even hitting anywhere yet. So maybe this will stay this way, but there's a lot of shear up there. This might just dissipate. We might not get many impacts at all from this, which would be great news. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe for those daily weather videos. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.